We're doing a Christmas dance on the Bxb'S bonus Babble podcast number 12. Hey, if you're not watching on video, you're missing Richard's dancing, and it's awesome. Yeah. He was at Prodigy last night, weren't you, Rich?
I was. No.
Awesome.
Yeah,
How good was it?
Yeah, I've woken up to the worst migraine. I don't get migraine, but apparently now I do.
Old man can't do it like he used to. Yeah, I know it well. I was out having some Christmas drinks last night as well. So if it makes you feel better, I'm suffering from a bit of a hangover too. So, there is that. But we couldn't go without a podcast this week. We originally, if you listen to last week's show, we talked about how that was probably the last one for the year. And we'll be back in the new year with our game of the year. But a little game came out that we've all actually been able to get our hands on and play together. I don't think all three of us have played together, but I've played with both of you separately to much success, I might add, which we'll talk about shortly. And that little game is PlayerUnknown's Battleground, which came out in game preview on the Xbox One. And that's basically all we're here to talk about today. We're going to do some, right at the end of the show, me and Joel are going to do some Star Wars The Last Jedi spoiler discussion and really dive into that. But that'll be right at the end, and we'll give you plenty of warning if you want to turn off, because I know it's only just come out. And Richard will be leaving as well, because he hasn't seen it yet either.
I don't want to hear that.
With me today, I obviously have Richard, who I've introduced already as we've been chatting away. And I have myself. I am your host, Ben. And with me, as always, is for pretty much every bonus babble ever. I maybe did like one or two without you, Joel, but you're back again.
Yep. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think I've been with you most of them, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, just sipping on the old coffee there. It's an early morning podcast. Well, relatively early. It's a Sunday at 11 o'clock, which is early on a Sunday, isn't it? I mean, that counts.
Well, it's relative to when you get out of bed, I guess. And I'm clocking in at 25 minutes. So, yes, early.
Wow. You earned that lie-in, though, yeah? For your work. And
well, to be honest, I did get up earlier than that because the wife's gone to work. So I was up at about 6. Migraine hit, back to bed. So I nearly didn't come because you were talking about that chat we had about last time being the last one of the year. And I was convincing myself, yes, that is the last one. And nearly thought I didn't have to come today. So you're lucky to have me here, or unlucky, depending on your perspective.
Well, no, this isn't a normal bits and bobs. This is a bonus babble. We're not doing news. We're not doing lots of the games we've been playing. It's just all about PlayerUnknown's Battleground. Now, Joel has the code, as it were, and the magic code, which means he'll be writing a lovely piece about this in preview, like a preview code. I don't know. I don't know what his piece is going to be yet. We haven't even discussed it, but I'm sure it'll be great and coming relatively soon, Joel.
Yeah, I've written most of it. I now need to go through and kind of fit it out and just edit it into the final draft, really. So, yeah, hopefully, I'm hoping I can kind of get it done this evening, but it might be some point tomorrow.
That's fine. It's fine. It's not a problem. But let me start off. I just want to share this. Like, okay, on this day one of playing PlayerUnknown's Battleground was perhaps my greatest ever day playing video games. I have never experienced a day quite like that. Now, I've been looking forward to Pubg. I think we'll call it Pubg from now on because it's a lot less of a mouthful. I've been looking forward to it since it came into like Steam Early Access, I think around February, March of this year. And I don't have a great PC, so I've waited patiently. I've watched video. I've read about this game incessantly, and I knew I was going to love it. And boy, oh boy, it didn't disappoint. And I'm fortunate in a way that I'm not writing the critical piece covering this game. And I'm sure, Joel will be putting in the more sort of analytical point of view shortly. But for me, as a pure gaming experience, those 3 chicken dinners on day one was perhaps the most amazing video game experience I've ever had. And I was just blown away. Started off with a squad one, then I got one with Richard, and I got one with Joel. You guys were there for my chicken dinners. I took it to 3 in day one. Unbelievable experience. I obviously had a great time. Yeah, I mean,
wonder how that is. It must be hard to do, mustn't it? Because you're there with 99 other people. I
can see it from both sides. Like, a lot of people are new to the game on Xbox, and as they're console gamers, they might not have the right mindset for that type of game. There is that.
Yeah.
However, we did this through technical problems, frame rate issues, all kinds of like performance problems that are affecting everybody. So, I was still able to do it through that. And I think, I'll be honest with you, my almost year of following this game, kind of what it did was it meant I'd learnt the game. I'd never played the game. And yet when I actually sat down to play it that day, it felt very familiar. I knew the best places to drop. I know what to do, the amount of time to spend scavenging, the amount of time to be offensive and stuff like that. Even know how to really, what guns were best for what situations, because I'd seen so much coverage. So I almost certainly had a bit of a leg up because of that. It's still, though, getting one would have been, that squad one we got. Richard, you were there for that as well. That was pretty great. But then the duo, me and you, when it was just the two of us in our first ever game together, to win it was very special. I have to say that was amazing.
I hadn't done any of my homework over the past 9 months, whatever. I didn't know the first thing about Battlegrounds really, other than the concept. I'd not seen any videos, so that came as a massive rush. That even
it was huge. My heart was just leaping out of my chest. I don't think I've ever had such a high, like a high from a video game before. That was incredible for me. But let's throw to Joel now, because you said the concept of the game, and as the man doing the piece, Joel, what is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds?
So from my perspective, this is very much the video game of the 2000, I think it was, the movie Battle Royale, which is a sort of Japanese dystopian kind of film that deploys school kids on an island and gives them a random weapon, and then they fight to the death until there's only one of them left. And and that's literally what it is. You've got this relatively decently sized island. I'm trying to think, it'd probably take you about 20-30 minutes possibly just on foot to get from one end to the other, I think, and its extent. So it's pretty big. There's sort of minor settlements, little farms, couple of big towns on there. It's an island with an airport you can get to, some bridges and things. So yes, there's this big location to explore. And the game starts, you literally start off in a little warm-up area quickly whilst it loads up a lobby of about 100 players, and then you'll have to airdrop onto the island. So it starts with you all on this kind of aeroplane flying over. Now, this is one thing Ben enlightened me to. I wasn't sure if it was just me and Ben in the aeroplane as a squad or a duo, but no, everyone else is in there. If you look back, you can see everyone else suddenly timing their points at when they want to jump out the plane. So the plane takes a random vector over the island, and you've got to quickly make a choice about where you think you want to go. Do you want to go early? Do you want to go late? Do you want to go in the middle? Do you want to try and find somewhere quiet? Do you want to go somewhere busy? Do you want to be involved in the fight up front? Do you want to try and bide your time and fight a bit later? So you've got to make a quick choice about what you want to do. For the most part, I try and find somewhere quiet, or at least relatively quiet, where we think there'll be some good weapons. So you parachute down, you land on the island, and your first point of call is you've got nothing. You've got nothing but the clothes on your back. So this is straight into scavenger mode. You need to find some buildings, or sort of like a point of interest, like there's certain open areas like a rifle weapons range and things like that, or some underground bunkers. You need to go in there. These are where the weapons and items spawn. And yeah, you need to quickly gather some guns. Now, when you get into buildings, it can be a bit random, but generally weapons are pretty well distributed. There's tons of them. It shouldn't take you that long to find a gun. It's not like playing a game like DayZ, where you may find the magazine of a gun and then have to travel the entire span of an island to actually find a gun and some ammo to go with it. So you relatively quickly get a couple of guns, some items, a backpack, some food, some med kits. Sorry, not food, med kits, and like energy drinks is what I mean. So you do this whole scavenging bit, and but at the same time you're trying to either avoid other people because you want to get yourself some basic level of equipment and stuff. So all the 100 other people on the island are doing the same thing, and some people will luck out and get some really good sort of assault rifles and things very quickly. And in crowded areas, you'll probably encounter someone very quickly, and you'll either be at an advantage or a disadvantage. In the more quiet areas, you've got a bit more time, but then so then you've got to start fighting to the death. But the way the game deals with this is there's sort of like an area of play that is steadily shrinking, and if you're caught outside this area, you'll start losing health at an increasing rate as the game duration goes on. And this play area shrinks down to probably about a couple of tens of meters, really, doesn't it? Tens of meters squared. It's very small towards the end. So you've got to get scavenge, you've got to get yourself equipped first. You've got a few minutes to sort that before the sort of play area starts shrinking, and then yeah, you've got to try and survive to be the last person standing, or if you're playing a squad or a duo, the last team standing, basically. And yeah, it's brilliant. There are vehicles there, so you know, you've got to strategically time when you're scavenging, but when the map's going to start shrinking, you've got to know. You can look on the map and see where the next area is. It doesn't just shrink to the center of the map. It sort of randomizes where it goes. So you could have a short walk. You may already be in the area that it's shrinking to. You may have a long walk. You may need to find a vehicle. You may not be looking at making it in time. And that's that. It's literally scavenge, sort of get to the area, try and stay alive, try and kill people, try and win. And
yep.
It's brilliant. Matches probably about depending on, you know, if you're there to the end, you're looking at about 20 to 30 minutes per game, I think.
There is a purity, isn't there? There's a simplicity and a purity to the experience. Yeah, I mean that's one of its greatest strengths, is that it's so incredibly easy to understand what you have to do, but then there's a lot of depth and variety to how you can do it, and how you can play it. There's so much freedom to how you want to approach each drop. When you go down there, you know, like I say, you can go spicy, you know, get into the center, go for quick kills and grabbing, you know, whatever you can to get as many kills early on as possible. Or you do, like, you know, you go out to a farmhouse and hope for some good stuff, and then play the long game, and then try and last into the final circle, and then take advantage, you know, of maybe good positioning or something like that. Yeah, I mean, the other thing I want to say that this game has given me is more stories than any other game I've played this year. You know, because there's so many variables. That means that when you have experiences in this game, they are noteworthy. I remember me and you, Joel, we won, being chased by that blue circle, and you're remarking to me like it's like the Death Star exploding behind us because we're on that buggy, and you're watching it closing in.
Oh, yeah. And
we're burning through the trees, and we're flying over hills, you know, at full speed. And then we went on to win that match, you know, after that incredible kind of chase we had with the evil blue circle of doom that tries to kill you and forces you into the next circle. And Richard, you know, creeping through that underbrush, when you used yourself as bait to pull out those enemies so that they just didn't see me at all, and I just killed them, you know, they popped up. Brilliant. It was an amazing experience. It was fantastic. It was so cool. And I know, Joel, you had the vehicle strat, like your 9-kill match. So yeah, tell people what that was.
That was literally, I'm surprised I didn't. I might have had a mild heart attack and just not being in the medical profession, unable to diagnose it. But literally,
quite possible.
Yeah, I was just playing by myself. So at this point, I'm still trying to get familiar with the game. There's a lot of nuances to the controls. I was pretty lucky because playing my first few games with you, Ben, you did an excellent job of talking me through, some of the issues of the controls, because the game doesn't really actually have any real form of tutorial or anything. This is very much trial and error. If you want, you need to go and read a bit about the game, I think, to find out about it, or be playing with someone who knows what they're doing, because that will help you get over a hurdle to start with. Because the game can be, until you know what you're really doing, it can be incredibly punishing and kind of unforgiving. You will get killed. You will get knocked out of these matches quite quickly. Each encounter you make, you're likely to lose, but you will get through that. You push through it, and then suddenly, you'll find yourself on dishing out the pain to most people. Being more, you'll know when to run. You'll know when to sort of face up against people. So I was playing by myself anyway, just trying to practice things. And I was doing a decent job of scavenging, and I was just in a barn scavenging when some guy just pulls up in a vehicle outside, unaware of my presence. So I can hear his vehicle. I just wait for him to come in the barn. He comes in, I kill him, I steal his vehicle, and then I literally spent the rest of the game sort of driving on the kind of periphery of the play area as it's shrinking, and just every time that people, when the time limit's getting quite short, players are sprinting to try and get to the next play area and things, and I could just in this vehicle come up behind them and just flatten them. And I went on doing this until literally it was with about 5 of us in the last play area, and I'm the only guy in this last play area, just circling in this vehicle, just running over anybody I can see until it gets down to the final 2, me and this other guy. Now, by this point, my vehicle's been shot up to hell. It's on fire. I'm pretty nervous, and I'm having a heart attack as well, because I made it to the last 2. I'm 9 kills so far, so I've probably been one of the best players on the server. And I was like, oh god, I sort of started to think and taste that win, and I had the one chance. I came around and the guy was just next to a tree. I saw the final guy, And yeah, I went for him, and like I think there was a case of he managed to sidestep, but I just didn't quite line the car up that well either. So I just missed him, and by that virtue, he managed to have the chance to shoot me. And well, then the car was about to blow, so I'm sitting there hammering the X button to try and get out the car, and then the car blows up, and then I realised, oh yeah, it's like the B button to get out the car, isn't it? I was mashing the wrong button to get out the car, and like that might have saved me as well. But yeah, it was. Even though like it got to that though, I was just like, wow, that was incredible, great fun, and that's when I think I started becoming really comfortable with the controls in the game and how to play it. So yeah, I took a lot of videos on that.
It's a hump, isn't it? I know when we were playing together, you were struggling to get that first kill, but once you get that kill and you get over that hump, you can start to really enjoy it, and you realize it's not impossible and stuff, you know. One for me, I was having a great early game scavenge. I'd gone down into a really nice area, basically by myself. I had a fully tricked out SMG, I had a fully tricked out assault rifle, level 3 vest, level 3 backpack. I was feeling like an indestructible tank. I'm clearing out the third floor of a 3-story house. I hear a guy coming downstairs, and I'm like, yeah, easy, he's dead. I'm gonna kill this guy. So we kind of meet each other on the second floor in the middle of the house. You know, I come around the corner, he turns around the corner, he takes one shot, headshots me, and kills me because the only thing I hadn't been able to pick up was a helmet. And yeah, that was just instant death. And I'm like, and I had so much gear, and I was like, this is gonna be a good match. And it's just like it works both ways. It's so much. That's why you love it. You never know. Every drop is different. Like, you know, there's so much variety to the different areas of the map. The experiences are so different.
It will catch you. It'll continue to catch you out. That game, we played a game, didn't we? And so one way to a good indicator if a house has been looted or not is if the doors are open. And literally, go into this house. Yeah. All the doors are closed. You know, go through the bottom floor, go up the stairs to the next floor. Just open a door, and there are just 2 guys in the room. Just like straight away, just blitz me and kill me. Like I just I hadn't heard a single sound from them or anything. They were just there, and they just killed me. So. You know, the unexpected can happen at any point in that game, literally. And that's why I was screaming down the chat mic for you, wasn't it, Ben? They're on the second floor. They're on the second floor.
But hilariously, right, the problem there was because we were in an area that was being shelled at that moment. I didn't hear you. I heard you say something, but I didn't hear what you said. So I followed you up there and then got killed as well. And it was just like, oh, shit, you know, fucking bollocks. How about you, Richard? Have you got any stories that stick out to you, experiences?
My take on it is because like I said, I've not been following the game very much. I wanted to save it till I played it myself. My experience has been of being sort of the hanger-on the team games that I've played. But even then, it just feels awesome. Like when we won that squad match, I think I was the first to die. And that was purely because I thought you guys were covering me, and I was just sat there putting bandages around my arms. And this guy just walks around the corner, looks at me for a few seconds, thinking, I'm sure he's not on my team, but he doesn't seem to be responding to me, and he's just watching me. I don't think anything of it, because I thought it was you. Like, just take me out. And yeah, I think moments like that make you realize you've really got to be attentive at all times, and even with your own team, just communicate properly and work out where you're all going to be going and what you're going to be doing. So yeah, it's a really good team game, but it's one of those that sort of feels like even if you're not that good at it, you can find a place within it. One of those classic online games that I find a space in. Really enjoying it.
Yeah, we definitely have to play some more, that's for sure. I mean, that what Richard said then reminded me of the little bit. I only heard what happened here, Joel. We were playing, weren't we? And you stopped for a minute to look in your inventory or something, like just for a second, and that was the moment the dude came in and just killed you.
Yeah.
Like as soon as you opened your inventory, you were very angry.
Yeah,
I remember
trying
that.
to equip a mod for my weapon. I'd been wanting to do it for about 3 minutes, and I finally thought, right, it seems quiet enough around here. Opened my menu. I was in the menu for possibly like 5 or 10 seconds, and then I'm just killed. It's just like, God damn it! Like, yeah. There are moments like that. It's so, yeah, you're right. It's so varied. Like I'm thinking of another good one where the play area was shrinking. It was shrinking to the island with the airport on it, and there's only 2 bridges to get across to the airport. And I knew I was going to struggle within the time limit anyway, but there was no way I was going to go across one of the bridges. It's like an absolute death trap. So I decided to swim across the ocean instead. But when I got there was another guy already swimming across, so I obviously had to pause to kill him first, whilst he couldn't do anything about it. Then I went across. And then on the other side are about 4 or 5 people just waiting for anybody to come up out of the water and gut you before you even got off. It can be a bit cruel at times, but it's at the same time it's just fun. You sort of you take your loss on the chin and just start the next game, and straight away you're back at the start again, scavenging and getting ready to go at it again. And
it's one of those games though, isn't it, that where it feels like when you die, it's only ever your fault, as in you can't blame anybody but yourself. Either you weren't quick enough, you didn't see the guy, you used the wrong moment to go into the menu, something like that. Because for the amount of times you'll die cheaply, you'll kill someone cheaply, and it's never cheap because it's just that's how it is. Nobody ever has like an unfair advantage. The advantages in this game come from, did you get that good gun when you scavenged that random room and then find your 8x scope? That's where that's the real power up in this game. The real power up is knowing what weapons to put the good scopes on, finding the good scopes, getting that level 3 helmet. But it's all random. So you never feel like, oh, that guy's taking advantage of a thing, and then it just comes down to skill. And even then, a lot of the time, even skillful players. And I mean, I've got a lot of people on my friends list who, and I'm sure it's the same with you, Richard, who are very, very good shooter players. Yeah. And yet they either have no wins or they have very few wins. And it because it all comes down to, there's a level of chance, but there's also a level of that anybody can win it. Even really bad people, if you play it smart, you can win a game without getting any kills. You
it's
can.
like what you were saying earlier. I mean, there might be something in familiarity with FPS games. If someone is good on your friends list, typically that might set them back in a game like this, because it doesn't work like a regular FPS.
No, it kind of works against it almost, because a regular FPS is all about getting in there and going for those kills, isn't it? And it's like attack, 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 always attack, like in Call of Duty. Where in this, you have to know when to hide, when to be silent, when to just lie in the grass, let the other guys kill each other, and then take advantage of whoever's left. Which I think is how we basically we all both won those duo matches, isn't it? We waited, we were very tactical. When was it me and you, Richard, when we were hidden, or Joel? I can't remember which one of you. No, it was Joel, wasn't it? When we were in that house, and the gun battle was going on all around us, like right outside the doors. You knew there were at least 3 or 4 people out there, 5 or 6 maybe, just different types of, you could hit. That's the thing in this game. The sound is amazing as well. Like every gun sounds differently. It's amazing. So you can tell what they're using, and you can hear this heavy, heavy fire going down. And it slowly started to peter out. And then the circle moved, and we made a run for it across an open field, didn't we? And then we got into the new circle without getting killed, and then we took advantage of that, and we ended up winning that match. And I think it was quite similar with me and Richard when we won as well. We were hiding in the grass, and they just didn't see me, and it was we got those kills. That was great. So yeah, I think the inclination of like a normal FPS gamer would be just to run in with your guns and go guns blazing. And look, gunplay is very important in this game, and it requires a lot of practice. And there's real bullet drop, there's real effects. Guns feel differently. Each gun performs differently. Will perform differently with the attachments on it, and scopes and grips and clips and all kinds of things. So yeah, it's definitely important to get into those fights. But yeah, you can totally win this game without that. You really can. I fucking love it, man. But it would be remiss of us, wouldn't it, really, Joel, specifically, to talk about this game without talking about the problems.
Yeah.
So would you like to talk about some of the problems?
The game's major problem is, well, I'm not going to say it's a problem, where the game needs to improve, because this is an early access title. So I think there's got to, I think the underlying gameplay's there. They've got that right, the items and weapons and things. What they now need to switch to work on is the performance, because the frame rate varies between I think it probably averages somewhere around the low 20s. It can be pretty stuttery and stuff. You can see when you're on the plane to be deployed, look at the mini map, you can see it stuttering and jerking as you go across and things. And yeah, you get significant frame drops, and at times it's not because it's busy or anything. You can't really work out why sometimes you're getting frame drops and things. I mean, the game doesn't seem that heavy on geometry. It doesn't seem too heavy on I know they say that it's on the excerpt at least that it's got a 4K HD texture pack, but I don't think the textures, I don't think it's very graphically as intensive or extremely impressive looking or detailed per se. I think there's a lot in the world. There's lots of foliage, there's lots of grass, which is obviously makes I think it's very important for the game because this is what makes going prone very valuable, and how you can stay hidden in grass. So, you know, if you're wanting to avoid conflict and stuff, there you can use the environment really well for that. But yeah, it's they've got a lot of work to do on improving the performance. I mean, just God, on the menus alone, just when your characters load in, like I kept saying to you, Ben, "God, you're Nate. You know, you're just standing in your lingerie again for me, aren't you?" There's a lot of popping in places and things. But looking, you know, and I haven't yet tried it on my Xbox One S. You know, that's my intent to do before I finish it. It's one of the last things I've got to do, I think, before I finally pen the final parts of my piece. But yeah, they've got a lot of work and to improve on that. But knowing that the game play is there, they've got the core concept is fantastic. You know, now hopefully they can just switch their focus to putting the improvements in on getting a smoother frame rate, bit of a better performance, bit of a better feel. Perhaps adding some additional tutorial options, sort of maybe just, you know, some more explanations to controls and things would be good. But yeah.
Definitely some kind of shooting range would be nice, wouldn't it?
They've come this far and the game is doing really well by all accounts on Xbox, and that's with all of these problems. So part of me does think, will they really bother to make this the polished experience we're all wishing it would be? Because it can get away with not.
Yeah, DayZ never did. So I played DayZ on the early access on the PC, and this reminds me a lot of that. You know, it's got some, at its root, it's got some brilliant ideas, and it is fun to play. But you really have to work around the problems of the game to get the most out of it. Mostly just with interaction, movement, and the clunky feel and the performance of it and things. And despite everything they ever said about DayZ, they spent most of their time actually just adding new content, like, you know, adding more buildings and trying to vary the maps and stuff rather than polishing the actual game engine and stuff itself. So you raise a very good point, Richard. And one of the problems that kind of do get with early access titles is quite often they are not ever finished, are they?
No.
I don't know. I think we're going to see that with this. It's like a 0.5 something release that's currently the build that's on Game Preview. It was basically co-developed with Microsoft for this console release. You know, they've had help from the Coalition in Elements as well, which is a Microsoft first-party studio. I don't think they can afford to not get this properly optimized. It would be too much of a stink on the brand. It's been their biggest push this holiday season, this game. So I honestly think they're going to work on it. It's already much better on PC as that rapidly approaches its 1.0 release. I think it's this week coming up, actually. Yeah, 22nd, I want to say. So I do think they will keep working on it. All I care about is let's get it to a steady 30 and let's see if we can push it above that, you know, for the X and stuff like that. I'm not really too bothered about improvements in textures and lighting. I think it actually already looks pretty good on the X. It's not like mind-blowing, but I think considering the scope of it, I quite like how it looks and stuff like that when it's running okay. It's just things like when you throw a Molotov in it and it completely bottoms out the frame rate. You could actually use that tactically. I've not actually tried this, but I think if you had a Molotov and you were like wanting to clear a house and you knew there was somebody in there, you throw that in, it's going to tank their frame rate. So you could probably actually use that to get an easier kill if you were smart about it, which is kind of wrong. You shouldn't be able to do that. And yeah, I have yet to try it on my S as well, Joel, but I'm thinking about doing that today. So maybe I'll jump on with you if you're about and we'll give it a little run and see how it plays. Because I suspect from the things I was hearing about how it performs on the OG Xbox from people like Mark and stuff, yeah, it's not good. It's really, really not good with pop in and frame rate. So I'll be curious to see.
We're all X, aren't we?
Yeah, we're all playing on the X as our primary. Yeah, all the games I've played so far have been on the X. Yeah.
Do you think might have contributed to our unusual wins?
It's possible, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, that might have had an effect if the other players were struggling. But saying that, I saw Mark, who former editor of Xbox, the former incarnation of the website. He got his chicken dinner before even I did. Like he had a solo chicken dinner from like, I don't know, like 4 hours after release or something of the game. And he was able to do that on an OG Xbox. So I don't know. Once the game is going, how bad it is, we'll have to test it and find out, Richard. Because frankly, I don't really play much on my S anymore if I can avoid it. Because why would I? The X is so much snappier and so much nicer for just about everything you do on it. yeah, I love it though. I can see myself coming back to this again and again. Really happy that one thing I was worried about when this game came out on Xbox is that it wasn't going to have vaulting in it. And can you imagine that the mobility in that game, which has only just been fixed? You know, you'd have to try and jump over all those fences, try and jump over crates instead of just being able to go up to something and like vault over it or hop over it like you can now in the game. It must have been incredibly frustrating for PC players for the longest time. So I'm glad that's there. I'm really looking forward to this new map that's on the way, the desert map. I'm starting to see footage of that coming out from the test servers on PC. It looks like a very different experience, much more open, desolate environments, and then also big cities, like with high rises and built up environments, which should really bring lots of variety and extra levels to the gameplay. So that looks quite exciting. I don't know when we're going to get that on Xbox, but a couple of months, I would suspect, something like February maybe. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential there, isn't there? If they sort out the problems, this could be one of the best shooters. But I mean, by the time they sort those problems out, how many other big AAA games and shooters are going to suddenly have battle royale modes? I think that everything's going to have a battle royale mode, isn't it? I mean, they'd be crazy not to, surely.
Well, Fortnite's already done it, hasn't it? But I think there'll be a difference, I guess, between games that just have a battle royale mode versus games that are purely battle royale. It's their only mode per se. But
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see that. I think there will be a lot of copycats, obviously, over the next year or two. So until probably enough until they kind of kill it out.
Wouldn't you play a Battlefield or Battlefront battle royale mode? I mean, imagine. Oh,
I was thinking that Battlefront.
with that engine. Jesus.
It would be great to play Battlefront or Battlefield on 100 players per server, wouldn't it?
Well, I don't think they do 100.
Just 100 players, 50 versus 50 would be outstanding.
I don't think they'll do 100. I'd say I think copycat ones that are on higher fidelity engines will have smaller scope, I suspect. But we will see. So yeah, very positive. Anything you guys wanted to add before we wrap up the Pubgs?
It's bundled with the Xbox One X now, isn't it? So if you
is that what they're doing?
You're looking at getting an X for Christmas or looking for a last-minute present idea and happen to have 450 odd pounds, don't worry about buying Pubg separately. I think they're doing it as a bundle at the moment. So,
definitely the console to play it on, from what I've heard. Yeah, you can play on an X. Yeah,
I think they already have I think they've already said this week there's been over 1 million players playing.
Wow.
Simultaneously, that is actually on Pubg service and stuff. So it's got a very healthy player base already, and that's just on the Xbox.
Yeah, that was within the first 48 hours, the 1 million market.
Stunning.
It's doing very well.
That Brendan Green must be just like running around in circles, clapping just all the time. Like, my word, guy who basically was a part-time modder that just for a bit of fun created a few of these silly mods, and now is probably the most important developer, I say in inverted commas, in the world. That's insane. Wow, what a success. Well, congrats to him. I think I want to go and play some more now, but me and Joel are going to hang about for a bit more of a chat. Richard, are you going to depart, sir?
Yeah, I don't want any Star Wars spoilers.
No problem at all. I hope your head feels better.
Thank you.
And we'll see you online hopefully soon for some more.
I might be on later.
Oh, okay. We'll try and hook up. We'll try and find a fourth as well, so we can get a full squad going. Because in this game, you don't want to play with randoms. Oh my god, on your team, do not play with randoms. They like to turn on you. I've seen that happen. It's not good. Don't play with randoms.
I'll have you back later.
All right. See you soon, Rich.
See you, Rich.
Boy. So we're going to segue now into the second part of this podcast, which is mine and Joel's discussion of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Warning, warning, warning. There will be spoilers. Oh my god, so many spoilers. So if you have not seen this film, stop listening now. Come back later if you so wish, or just don't bother. I don't mind. But I really want to talk about it because it's probably my favorite film of the year, Joel.
Yeah, I saw your text and I was trying to work out now if it was sarcasm. So tell me so much what you enjoyed about it.
No, it wasn't sarcasm. I genuinely loved it. There's been some interesting reactions to this. It's really interesting to see critics' response like in the high 90s average, and then like fan response in the like 60s, or just user response if you like, not necessarily fans. I think it was a really exciting, brave, interesting departure for the Star Wars franchise. I thought after Abrams' incredibly safe, nostalgia-fueled Force Awakens, for Rian Johnson to take Star Wars into directions hitherto unexplored and just flip things on their heads. I was like an annoying American in that cinema, Joel. At times I was whooping, clapping, cheering, you name it. I was so into it. I absolutely loved it.
You didn't see it again last night, did you? Because there was a very loud American in the theatre when we were there.
No, I didn't.
And kind of cheering and laughing very loudly throughout the whole show.
I was that guy. I mean, I take it from what you said, you weren't as impressed. Now, what's your Star Wars love? Your deep Star Wars love, like me? You go back a long time with it?
Yeah. From my childhood,
it's what got me into sci-fi.
Yeah. Like, I love the Star Wars films when I was a kid. I love the special effects. I love the space battles. The space battles were always the sort of my favorite part of it. Just the bit of the Return of the Jedi, the bit in the New Hope, the Death Star assault, the trench run, all of that. I absolutely freaking love that. I love the X-wing and the TIE much. When I was a kid, I must have played those for
you must have loved the opening of the film then, of Last Jedi.
Yeah. So the initial start was, cinematically that was just incredible looking. The CGI there is incredible, and it was really, it was just a decent, albeit quick and funny space battle. And it wasn't so much of a battle, was it?
I wouldn't say necessarily funny, but
there's the conversation between Poe and General Hawks.
It starts with some humor, but it quickly becomes everybody dying.
Yeah.
And people you care about. Very brief shorthand characterization that makes you care about the heroic sacrifices, that makes you really feel that these people are on the edge of utter annihilation and destruction, and that it's a last ditch effort. So sort of like in relation to that, this film seems to happen within like a day of the end of The Force Awakens, doesn't it? Like it's very immediate, straight after. And there's a real sense of urgency and a sense of desperation that permeates all the resistance / rebellion. And I really dug the tone.
To seize, they're a bit pissed off, obviously, about Starkiller Base, but they know where the rebel base is. They want to, they want to get there and get the job done quickly now, don't they? They were, sorry, not the rebels, the resistance, they're called in these films.
Well, they're called both, actually, because it's the etymology of that word would be resisting. They were resisting the First Order because the First Order wasn't in charge, but in this film, the First Order is now in charge, so therefore they are rebelling. So they are actually kind of rebels.
Yeah, practitioners, don't they? Use both terms quite interchangeably throughout the film.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. I think that was a bit of Rian Johnson. A lot of this film was, I think, some heavy course correction on Rian Johnson's part, away from some of the stuff Abrams did. Yeah, like, why did you come up with these stupid names that confused people? It's just, they're the fucking rebellion. Like, because why bother calling them the resistance? I felt like there was quite a lot of that going on. Like, who's Snoke? Who, like, really? Why are you confusing this? Kylo Ren should be the main bad guy, shouldn't he? I mean, let's fix that. There's quite a few bits of that in there. I take it from your tone, though, you weren't as enamored as I was.
No, I just found it overall a bit meh. I didn't really come out of the. I guess I kind of felt a bit melancholy about it. Really, I didn't have any moments like. So I watched The Force Awakening on Friday night again for about the fourth time, and there are bits in that film I don't like, but there are bits in it I really do love and stuff, like bits that I can, every time I watch them I can feel the hairs on the back of my neck tingling and stuff. I just didn't get any moments like that from this film at all. It just felt kind of felt a bit like a Marvel movie, I guess.
Okay, you're not the only person I've spoken to that's said things like this. However, it seems to be the big Star Wars nerds and fans that have the biggest problems with it. And search your feelings, young Joel, and tell me, is it got something to do with the fact that he's basically throwing out tropes instead of what Abrams was doing in Force Awakens? I mean, Abrams was trading so heavily on your love, and by that I mean all Star Wars fans' love, of the original film, not even the trilogy, the original film, that it was hard not to, like you get those goosebumpy moments. Whereas I think what Ryan Johnson did here with basically throwing out Jedi, throwing out Sith, throwing out these notions of black and white and good versus evil, throwing out these notions of clear delineation of who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. You know, really making you that scene with Benicio del Toro's character when he says to Finn, "Oh, look, this arms dealer, he's a bad guy. He's been selling stuff to the bad guys. Oh, and the good guys. So the only way really to win in this fight is not to be in it." And I think there's a level of maturity and commentary and depth to this film that Rogue One didn't have it, because Rogue One, you knew what was going to happen. Again, trading on your nostalgia, you knew where that was going, what they were doing, why they were doing it. This is incredibly grey, and there's a lot more subtlety to this than I think we've had from any Star Wars film until now. Actually, to be honest, the prequel trilogy had some slightly more kind of like political, overtly sort of questioning moments with, you know, the ethics of clones and you know, determination and self-determination abilities and stuff like that. Whereas I think we've not had that from the Disney film so far. And I think this one is trying to push things in a new direction. And I kind of am worried that Abrams coming on to do 9, is he going to go, well, fuck you, Ryan, let's make it all clear cut again? I am slightly concerned about that, because I think there's plenty in there for the kids, but there's a lot more in there for the adults. And yeah, it takes things away from what you remember from your childhood, and it changes that, and it doesn't play on that as heavily, but it's a far more interesting film for it, I think.
Yeah,
and I also think visually, just going to say, offensive hyperspace jump, that visual.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, brilliant. Like I say, the CGI, you can't fault the cinematics of the film. The CGI is brilliant. The audio again is really well done. Oh, you know, in that specific silence scene, you know, brilliantly done as well. But it's yeah, that was there are some superb moments. Just watching, like, you know, those specific scenes and sequences and things like that are very impressive to look at and stuff. You know, they're just, I didn't really feel like any of the characters really went that far this time. I think there was a kind of Kylo Ren kind of developed a bit more. We got to learn a bit more about, you know, everything's not so clear cut as to why he is what he is. They explore that, you know, what did happen with him and Luke and this Jedi school and stuff.
I'm really surprised to hear you say you don't think there was more character development. I think there was a million times more character development in Force Awakens.
But then, you know, there are so many characters that you're interested in finding out more about and wanting to see the development of and things that are just obliterated Game of Thrones style, I would say.
Well, we get a lot of deaths. There's a lot of heroic sacrifice. There's a lot of back to the wall. You've got to do what you got to do shit, which I think is incredibly powerful and emotional. That Vice Admiral Holdo, something like that. She's got a funny name, Holder. I love that whole storyline with Poe, and he, you know, she wasn't divulging information because changing command. Why should she? And he's getting all hot-headed and bullshitty and leads a mutiny. And it's just like, no, actually, Poe, you're on the wrong side of this, buddy. Like, this is a learning experience for you to become a better leader, because you need to understand that, you know, it's not the job of the people in charge to necessarily tell the people that are sacrificing themselves for you exactly what your plan is. That's not how this works. That's not how militaries work. And I thought, you know, there's some maturity to that. I thought Rey and her journey with Luke was amazing. I loved Luke unbelievably. That perfect characterization for a beaten, broken man who's failed, you know, and how he's coming through that, and how he then at the end, my God, with Kylo Ren, that was so amazing. And then Yoda, the Yoda bit, that was one of the bits where I was cheering when Yoda came on the screen. I was so excited. How did you feel about Yoda showing up?
I love that. I was actually surprised that you know, Ben Kenobi or Yoda or actually Anakin Skywalker, because you obviously see him at the end of Return of the Jedi, so you know that you know, even though they're physically dead, they're still there out in the ether, or that you know, can return. So yeah, I was expecting to see. I actually thought I'd see Ben Kenobi probably coming back and talking to Luke a bit or something. But yeah, with Yoda, it's funny because it brought him back to his. He comes back and he kind of has that. Remember when Luke first lands on Dagobah and Empire Strikes Back, and he's kind of pissing around of Luke a bit. You know, he kind of had that. You know, that sort of tone back.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was, like, but the best thing about that was it took Luke back as well. He couldn't help but fall back into that wide-eyed farm boy who just wanted to help his friends and just screwed his training up in the process. And you know, that's how nostalgia and calling back should work. I mean, that was subtle. made sense within the characters, and yet was an incredibly fan pleasing moment, you know. And I just thought, yeah, Yoda, he is the wisest of them all. You will never be that wise, Luke. And then he comes up with that amazing thing, that thing along the lines of, you know, the greatest challenge of any master is to admit when your student surpasses you, and you have to let them go. And it's like, there's a lot of layers. I mean, like I really enjoyed the Rey Kylo thing, talking to each other across the galaxy, bridged by Snoke. It turns out I really enjoyed that. I thought it was very old school, and it felt a great way of bringing characterization to those characters. That was a bit like confusing, and that yet they were confused by it and grew together, but they were actually being manipulated and all that all along. Loved that twist. And then the Snoke twist. That was fantastic when he turned on him.
Well,
I was just brilliant, just brilliant.
Inevitable from the Sith, isn't it? That it always there
can be only one. Yeah,
master. There are only ever two. But yeah, I guess I was surprised because you still never really find out anything about Snoke. He's just this grandiose figure with some obvious beef, so there's forms of domination, but with no real. And I know in the original trilogy, you don't really get any initial explanation as to why the Emperor's trying to do what he's doing. But yeah, I don't know. It kind of felt that when we're eight films into a series now, that we actually are looking for a bit more sort of meat on the bones to some of these, you know, some of these peripheral characters, some sort of justification or something like that as to what they're trying to achieve. Now, I thought. Yeah, obviously I was a bit Game of Thrones kind of surprised that his sudden quick demise. Almost expecting him to sort of like find out that that wasn't his real body and he'll be back in a week.
That's it.
Like
yeah. The two schools of thought are either Rian Johnson just didn't like that character, thought he was unnecessary, he wanted to get rid of him, or the wider plan is that he's some kind of clone and that he'll be back. Which is why, you know, you've got to remember he was incredibly powerful, right? The things he was doing far surpassed Luke's abilities or any of the other Force users' abilities. It would be very strange to me to think that was the end of him. I feel like he has to return in some form, that either that's a clone or a Force projection, because we get quite a lot of very physical Force projections in this film, don't we? We get Yoda doing it and Luke doing it, which makes me think, you know, that's a very an ability that's definitely plausible, and that, you know, isn't this just another manipulation of Snoke maybe to make Kylo Ren into the person he wants him to be, you know, leading the First Order as this kind of like cutthroat psychopathic Force user at the top. Maybe that's what it is. I feel like it might be. I really like Snoke though. I thought he was convincingly villainous. I really like the scene with Rey. You know, just before his demise. And then that battle that followed his demise was possibly one of the best lightsaber fights I've ever seen in anything, because there was no stupid bullshit Force use for the most part. It was just martial skill, and it was fucking awesome to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, I enjoyed that. There are some really good specific moments in that fight. Very good choreography. I thought it was one of the certainly the highlights of the film. But then. Yeah, I felt denied at the end of it. Obviously, there's the sequence that plays out immediately after that. You know, is Kylo going to switch? Is Ren going to switch? Are they going to team up? Is she going to join him, pretend to join him, but because she thinks she can change him? Is he going to innocent up but still like full foul? You know, there was a great many of options in that moment. But all I wanted was a lightsaber fight. I wanted part two of what happened. You know, surely Kylo is still feeling a bit like, you know. Bit like, you know, sore, like, you know, he must feel like defeated but worried, scared of her. She beat him, and although he was injured, she beat him fair and square, essentially on on Star Killer Base. And you know, does he not feel revenge? Does he feel like undermined by her? He's afraid of her. I wanted to see that boil over into something. But
it boiled over when he landed on Crate. I mean, his attack on that base, his attack on Luke, you could see him becoming unhinged and breaking down as a character. And you know, just, I love that. You alluded it to earlier, the two perspectives of why Kylo turned, like, and killed all the other Jedi at the thing. You know, from Kylo's perspective, Luke was about to murder him in his sleep. And from Luke's perspective, he had a moment of weakness where he thought about doing something, but then was actually stepping back off of it when Kylo realized he was there. So Luke definitely failed him. But, you know, I like that there's this interpretation element to that it isn't clear cut. That in many ways it is Luke's fault that Kylo went as far as he went. Even if Snoke was already manipulating him in the inside, why didn't Luke catch that sooner? Why didn't Luke do something to prevent that? And that shows, and then Yoda says, you learn through failure, and then you come back stronger because of that. And I think it's incredibly sort of mature, and wise sort of story beats there happening. How did you feel about our little excursion to Canto Bight? Because some people really dislike that.
The casino part.
Yes.
Yeah. I just it was surprising that it all essentially seemed, like one conversation could cut that entire excursion out the film. I guess it comes back to what you're saying before about the sharing the plan with Poe, for example, would have resulted in none of that happening. It was, I don't know, I kind of, it shows you kind of it's a bit of a, what's the word? I'm kind of a window into certain aspects of our current society, isn't it? As long as
the evil 1%. Yeah,
as long as the 1% could keep the 99% feuding, then they'll always keep their power and stuff. So,
well, that's the thing. The original Star Wars film is very political. The '77 Star Wars film is very, very political commentary on the socio-political situation of the time, and that's what Rian Johnson's trying to do with this one. And it's a little bit maybe more on the nose, but it's cool that they brought that back. That it's not just nostalgia for the sake of it. And I think there is more to that sequence. That sequence establishes the spreading the mission, the mission and the message of resistance and rebellion to others, to those children, to those slaves, which comes back later, right at the end of the film, when you see one of said slaves, much like Luke on Tatooine, has Force abilities, and that there will be more Jedi, and that just because not necessarily more Jedi, I should say, but just because the Jedi are no more and the Sith probably aren't anymore either, there will be Force users for good and for ill that are out there in their galaxy. And, the idea of spreading that message of hope, to challenge authority, to challenge that 1% at the top. I dug that. I thought that was really nice. And it's a great chase sequence as well with the horse creature things. Really fun, roller coastery, fuck up the casino, woo kind of moment. And they revel in it. They know that's what they're doing. They know it's just a thumb in the eye to that. It's not pretending to be anything else. And then we get, Benicio del Toro's character, who I think is one of the more interesting. And I love the fact that he's a proper slicer and not a hacker. And in the Star Wars universe, slicers are a bit different to like just computer hackers. They actually use physical tools, and it's much more mechanical kind of manipulation of information and technology that they get involved in. And he's so brilliantly ambiguous, and his betrayal, on the Star Destroyer made total sense. One thing I didn't like, one thing I thought was a real shame, Captain Phasma got like nothing to do. Yeah. Which was a bummer, considering they said she was going to have so much more to do.
2 minutes of screen time, and then she's gone. Like
she's not dead because she fell into fire, which means she's probably coming back disfigured and pissed. But I was just like, oh, she's really cool. Like, give her shit to do.
It was literally by the time she finally got her screen time, you're like, oh yeah, shit, I forgot about Phasma.
Yep.
Now they finally presented her, and it's like and then it was. You could almost tell from her late arrival and not having appeared earlier from that point that she's probably going to be not have much going on. And sure enough, it was a brief fight with Finn, and then like you say, you didn't actually. It's a bit open ended, I guess, as to whether she's alive or dead or not. So what will happen next, whether she'll be back or not? But
obviously. There's a lot of film there. It's 2.5 hours long, which is the longest Star Wars film ever. However, I felt I was in the cinema for about half an hour. It flew by, but clearly things had to get cut. That's the nature of filmmaking. I suspect things like Phasma's subplot and anything like that would be one of the first things on the chopping floor, as it were. Watching that film though, I can totally see why Disney were like, Ryan, do you want to do a trilogy yourself? Because he's got a tone to it. He's got it's like I said, like the whole time, it's a different type of Star Wars, and I think cutting him loose on his own time period with his own new characters, I think will maybe suit the fans a bit more of the main stuff, because it is awkward though talking to the fans, talking to various fans as I do where I work. you know, the general feeling I get is if Lucasfilm and Disney rang you up and said, give us your beat by beat wish list of what you want in a Star Wars film, and then they went and made that film, you'd still not be happy. There'd still be something wrong with it.
I think
it's impossible, really.
Yeah, well, what would do it for me is I hate this overbearing pressure to continue the story of the characters that we already know and have been established. They've got an entire universe, a universe that I fall in love with. There's far more that they could do with that universe, and new characters that I would be interested in finding out about and exploring. New locations, like some scoundrel stories, like some, you know.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
I would be much happier that people did that and, you know, just left everything else behind. They could have just started this trilogy with, like, you know, oh yeah, it's 150 years.
No, they couldn't. They couldn't, because it's a continuation of the Skywalker saga. You can't. It needed closure. It needed that, and it was always going to be this trilogy. But that's what these other stuff will be. You're gonna really enjoy, I reckon, what comes out next. But
I think I stand more chance of enjoying that more when I don't feel like I've got attachment to what came before. I think that's what works for Rogue One in some senses, and then the attachment it has got is quite subtle. I guess there's some connection. You've got Tarkin, you've got the Death Star. There are a few.
Darth Vader's in there.
That Darth Vader scene is probably the standout bit of the movie, as well as of the entire Star Wars series. That seeing him at his best, badass, is brilliant. But
terrifying.
Why not just go back and have peripheral stories that every now and again you might see a character like Vader come along and just beat up and then move on.
Where we're at with The Last Jedi now, Luke dies at the end, becomes one with the Force, passes in peace after his Force projection to fuck up and distract Kylo Ren, which is one of the coolest dirt on your shoulder scene I have ever seen in a film. Absolutely amazing Luke stuff there. Brilliant.
Did you pick up any clues to that beforehand?
Well, the fact that he walked out of a barrage of stuff was kind of.
I didn't even spot the only thing I spotted.
He also winked at C-3PO.
I didn't pick up I noticed all those things. I didn't think anything of it. The only thing I've noticed was when he got his lightsaber. I was like, oh, didn't Rey take that blue lightsaber?
Yeah, she destroyed that.
Oh well, and then obviously afterwards realised. But then lots of people are saying you notice that he doesn't leave marks in the salt. You know, how everyone touches the salt thing, it leaves the red staining behind or shifts.
I didn't notice that.
No one, he doesn't. You can't see any of that. So. Yeah, there are a lot of obvious hints leading right up to the point that he is.
But Kylo, in his anger, couldn't see him, could he?
No,
but obviously, so Luke's passed, though. He's going to come back, I would think, as a Force projection. And obviously, you know, that was one of the hardest things watching this film. Every time Carrie Fisher showed up, this is as well, because this is a film about a lot about loss, and about sacrifice and death and a loss of hope, and you know, every time she's on the screen. Oh, it was just like, oh my! I felt it, you know. It's very upsetting.
You kept her alive.
No, I'm not, because they'd come out and said beforehand that they were not going to alter the film in any way out of respect to what she'd done.
Right, okay, and
so I knew they wasn't going to die. No, but you know, obviously she won't be in the next film. So Luke might be very in a minor way, but I think, one of the problems that you're talking about is, like, you know, keeping these legacy characters around and stuff, and tying it that closely to the original trilogy. It does, in a way, has an effect. And I think that's why this film is definitely better than the previous film. One of the reasons why is, like, there's no Han Solo, there's a lot less Chewie and stuff like that. And I think where we went with Luke, he's such a different character. That was, I mean, Han Solo in Force Awakens is this ridiculous sort of, like, his character seems to have regressed.
Yeah, I didn't like him much.
A New Hope. So
it just felt so. He felt really bad compared to how much of a scoundrel he seemed in A New Hope. Yeah, it just felt awfully wrong. It's like, wouldn't you have been, you know, if you'd really gone back to that world and carried on, I'm pretty sure you probably would have been killed by now. Age would have, you know, it seems like a young man's game being a kind of scoundrel.
Yeah,
and you'd
just
even
the idea
be a
that
rich guy right at the top, not doing any of the hands-on stuff. Or so
the only thing I get that I maybe think is that so he's obviously, he went back to being a scoundrel when Ben turned and stuff as a way of coping with it, and maybe in that scene in the scoundrel underworld scene, like, well, it's Han Solo. I mean, he's just screwed us over, and we should kill him for it, but it's fucking Han Solo. You know, like we can't do that. It's Han. You know, there's maybe a lot of that going on there, maybe instead. But no, I didn't think that worked. Whereas I think Leia and Luke, that where their characters have progressed, especially Luke, I love that arc. I love that bit when, because it's like that bit at the end of Force Awakens, right? When Rey's on the island with him, and she's like, "Here's your lightsaber." Oh, it's a big moment. It's a big build, and then in The Last Jedi, he takes it. He takes one look at it and just goes,
yeah,
throws it over his shoulder, like, "Don't want it." And it's just like, it's literally Ryan Johnson saying to JJ, "I'm not going to pay attention to anything you've done."
Well, actually, I thought
good.
the opposite. I thought he had paid very good attention because, you know, Luke had decided to go away from it. He had tried to raise Jedi. It hadn't worked out, you know, what it ended up doing. So why is there this expectation that Rey will turn up at this island and Luke will suddenly be like, "Aha, you found me. You completed my secret quest. I will now be your master and train you." Like, literally, I wasn't surprised at all that she got all the way there. And Luke,
hold on. Why isn't there? What?
I'm not doing it.
Why is there no expectation? Because why is there no expectation? Because that Force Awakens was beat for beat in New Hope, pretty much. So you expect it because you've seen it before in Empire. That when he shows up at Dagobah with Yoda, he trains him how to do it. And that's because that's where the expectation came from. And I suspect that's what JJ expected to happen. But you know, the fact that Ryan Johnson has got like a writing credit on this, I think he was the major writer of the film. You know, he's crafted this story his way, and that's why I'm a little bit concerned to see what JJ does with the next one. And I kind of wish it wasn't JJ coming back. He's a great director, but he's very much flash over substance. He's brilliant visually, but his like content and his characterization isn't that great. And it's usually like what you'd expect. You know, look at the Star Trek films and stuff like that. It's always what you'd expect in those first two films. It's never really that challenging. You know, and Ryan Johnson, a guy from like Looper and Brick and stuff like that, he subverts genres. He doesn't like stick to them, you know? So, well, yeah, I'm a bit... That's why I think he's getting his own trilogy, because Disney are like blown away probably with how creative he's been here. But yeah, I definitely want to see it again. I really, really want to see it again. Because there's a lot in there, isn't there? There's a huge amount to unpack. There's loads of characters, loads of scenes, loads of little nuances and twists and bits and bobs and stuff. And I definitely want to see it because I was just swept along, and I literally felt like I was only in the cinema about half an hour. So, what about you?
Yeah, I'm not too sure if I'll go back. I mean, I just, like I say, I'm just a bit meh, and it's not because I just didn't think it was that fantastic a movie. I guess just even if I took it standalone, it just, you know, the kind of the Rebels are. It felt you know, but it borrowed a bit from Return of the Jedi. It borrowed a bit from The Empire Strikes Back. It's this whole the ships kind of chase each other. You know, sorry, the ships. You know, they're just chasing each other to run out of fuel. And it's like, can you really run out of fuel in space? I guess they just have to constantly accelerate, right? Because once you accelerate in space, there's no resistance, so you just keep going. So yeah, there's just little finicky details and stuff like that. I just didn't. Yeah, just on the whole, it felt it was all a bit not necessarily the way I wouldn't have wanted to go with it. I just didn't really enjoy it that much and stuff. I didn't enjoy the sort of skimmers and the battle against the new updated ATSTs with AT-ATs and things with the big cannons and stuff. I just didn't enjoy that much. I didn't think the sequences were that good. I didn't feel they kind of lost a lot of the. I used to love the way that it felt actually quite fighter pilot-y and stuff. You know, at the start, the first fighting sequence actually kind of preserved that feeling. First sequence of the film of kind of like World War II bombing runs and you know, fighter jets and that kind of thing, and it just seemed to all get discarded a bit. You know, and a bit with Falcon flying through the salt mines and stuff was fantastic, like chasing all the TIE fighters off. So there were some sparks of really good bits, and just other bits that I just didn't find that interesting. I didn't.
Well, you see, the thing with that bit on Crate with the base, there isn't a lot of space combat in this at all. That's the first scene is kind of it, really, isn't it? And then that bit on the, you know, with the speeders, the rickety piece of shit throwing together things. I like that because it's realistic. Because you've got this huge force of massively more powerful first order, you know, AT-AT type things coming down, and they've got these pieces of shit. They will get destroyed because, of course, they do. because how could they not be? They lose that fight. They lose, and they're only saved by Luke's intervention, you know, and Kylo's fucking hubris. It's a typical case of the Empire or the First Order. You know, you're talking about that chase as well. It's exactly the same thing. It's that the First Order doesn't believe in subtlety because they have the numbers on their side, and throughout this film, their numbers prove correct. That the Resistance loses, the rebellion is crushed. This isn't even as kind of optimistic as the end of Empire. I mean, it's pretty much where you end up at the end of Empire, is that they're on the Falcon and there's a dozen of them. And that's it, right? So, yeah, you don't get much of a battle on Crate because it's futile. And that bit when Finn, he's going to do the futile sacrifice, and Rose stops him and she says to him, that's not how we win. We win by saving the people we love, not by, you know, killing ourselves to try and hurt the First Order. And I think that's quite a nice moment again that nails it, because yes, they are fucked the way they are right now, and they've kind of been fighting a losing fight since Force Awakens, and that's, you know, I think again he's subverting expectations with that, you know, and the next film I feel like is going to have to be many years later, at least 2 or 3 years later, because the rebellion is going to need to grow again from this tiny little seed to actually, you know, do anything with the First Order's massive control and their huge industrial complex, you know? So, yeah, that's why they lost, because their strategy was shit and they had no equipment. And it makes sense that they all got killed. There's that great moment when Poe realizes what's happening. And he's just like...
He decides to turn... He's like Luke stalling, so he decides he wants them to go.
Yeah, and I think we've lost your picture, by the way, Joel, but it doesn't...
Yeah, no, you have lost my video. You just have to let it.
But yeah, he yeah, just gesticulating wildly instead.
It's quite a pose.
I just thought there was a realism to this. There was a believability to The Last Jedi. And yeah, there is a bit more, you know, it is a bit more bleak because of that. But there's hope, you know, there's always hope. And at the end you have hope of Rey with her incredible raw power, and where that will end up, who knows. You even have hope that Kylo will come out of things, and then of course you have the little kid with the Force powers. There is hope. So it does end on a positive note, but ostensibly their cause is lost at this point. You know, you didn't find that interesting. Some people saying to me it didn't feel like a Star Wars film. I feel like I can see where you're coming from, but I feel like it's better than a Star Wars film.
I mean, it's just I think it's a Marmite film, isn't it? Yeah. People are going to like it, or people aren't going to like it. But I'll probably sit somewhere in the middle. I liked bits of it, didn't like bits of it. Like I said, I just felt a bit meh about the whole thing. I came out of it and I just like, I don't know. I didn't think that was a fantastic movie. It's not the best movie I've seen this year. Like, much more impressed by Dunkirk, for example.
I haven't seen Dunkirk, to be fair. I want to see Dunkirk.
As a sci-fi film, it was an all right sci-fi film. It's got some good space battles. It's got some CGI is incredible. Yeah, you know, some of the explosions, especially when Poe's blowing up all the turrets at the very start of the Dreadnought, and just the little bits and fragments of debris that you can constantly see throughout all the scenes that subsequently follow and things like that. Yeah, it's very visually impressive and stuff. I just didn't really get on board with the way the story and the characters necessarily were going. I couldn't really find them that necessarily interesting. I mean, Rey kind of felt a bit I didn't really get Rey too much in this one. She kind of goes there to Skywalker. She's obviously a bit conflicted and stuff. She's got this thing with Kylo Ren and stuff. And then I thought, you know, she's still obviously trying to find herself, I guess.
What did you think about her revelation about her parents? Do you believe it, or is that bullshit?
Well, I'm surprised that they even... I almost felt like this was just going to be something hanging behind her the whole time. It was going to be something that they never really explained. Because I think it's one of those things that you want to keep as a mystery, but ultimately it probably shouldn't matter in the grand scheme of the story at all, because regardless of who her parents are, she's just who she is. And... you know, everyone's kind of like, our parents must be Forces and stuff. But no, back in the original prequel trilogy, they sort of explain that, you know, they go looking for people who are, you know, like live with the Force. It's not a genetic thing. The Jedi aren't supposed to breed, are they? Or, no. You know, so, you know, it can come from anywhere, and it can be in anybody. As I think hinted by the little boy at the end, it's sort of, you know, these Force users aren't just going to be Skywalker's, you know, heritage and genes and things like that. It's a lot more for it to come. So Yeah, I didn't think that was too bad. And yeah, Kylo Ren continues to be the kind of angry teenager who's kind of just gets completely blinkered by rage at times. So he's actually one of the more interesting characters, actually, because he's kind of like this, especially now, I guess, in some sense that even Snoke's not there to rein him in and try and hone and focus his thing. Luke's gone, so he's almost like untethered now. Not to put, this is probably who he's going to be. There's not going to be anyone who can really come back down on him and tell, oh, you've got to rein it in, you've got to hone it in, you've got to focus, be a bit more clever about things. No, he's going to be just going vanguard. He just wants to destroy he's going to be angry and ragey and so he's going to be quite interesting. It's whether or not he turns to, like I say, I think that he's probably the character they developed most in this whole thing. You kind of felt a bit sorry for him, his backstory, but yeah, I don't know. I felt a bit meh about it. I just kind of left and was like, yeah, meh. It was a Star Wars.
I'm sorry you felt that way, John. I have to say, I think it bears watching again, sir.
I will undoubtedly watch it again when it comes out on like Netflix or Amazon or Blu-ray or something. But I won't go back to cinema to see it again. I didn't go back to cinema to see Force Awakens though. I left that feeling a bit kind of like impartial. So, like I say, I think Rogue One has been my favorite of the Disney reboots so far, but just mainly because it felt so refreshing and new. Did lots of cool stuff.
Oh, I'm just going to attack my microphone. I bet that sounded really good when you're listening to this on audio. I think with that, though, we're going to wrap it up. That was our discussion of PUBG, though I'm sure we'll be talking about PUBG again. I mean, probably touch it on Last Jedi again as well after Richard's seen it in the new year when we're back for our Game of the Year podcasts and stuff like that. They're shaping up to be extensive. I would say, even with cutting categories that we don't have as much use for as we did last year, there's a lot of games on that list already. So I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. So you can check us out on Bxb, bxbgames.co.uk. I almost forgot the website then. That was bad, wasn't it? And iTunes is Bxb Games, Facebook is Bxb Games, Twitter is Bxb Games. You can also find me at DIYE, and Richard, who left earlier, can be found at Colonel Red. Famously, Joel does not have a Twitter handle. So yeah, that's this little bits and bobs. We'll see you after Christmas. Have a lovely holiday, guys, to all our listeners and viewers. Have a great time. Share your gifts, share the love. Play some games, definitely play some games. And if you get a chance, go watch Star Wars. I thought it was excellent, even if Joel thinks it was only meh. So it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from Joel.
Yeah, happy Christmas and happy New Year if we don't speak to you before.
I don't think we will. So yes, have a lovely New Year. Get completely rat-arsed. That's always my plan. Bye-bye.
Bye.